Siguiente panel, Michele Fitzpatrick, CEO at Eviivo, and Carlos Pérez-Lanzac de Lorca,
How are you?
founder of Vitur.
If someone can give us no. Agua? Nadir, mira a ver si aquí detrás hay una botella de agua. Aquí detrás. I'll get you some water.
Good. It's hot.
It is a little bit.
Sorry, I'm on mic. I didn't realize.
No worries. We're going to have a proper one-to-one
Just a conversation, yeah.
That's nice.
How come your mic is not on?
I just move it like that.
Oh, okay. So, good.
Cool. So we can. ¿Qué hago? ¿Sí? ¿Empezamos? Perfect. So we're not jumping straight into Michele. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Carlos, and hi, a very good afternoon, everyone. Hola.
Hola. Good. First time in Malaga?
First time in Malaga, definitely. Not
really?
First time in Spain, yeah.
Okay, okay. So we need to give you some recommendations
Yeah,
for
yeah.
food,
I'm probably going to
sightseeing.
visit some place tonight.
Of course, we give you that. So to be honest, I was very excited about having you. I'm pretty impressed with your background, and it's quite an honor to have you. If you don't mind sharing a little bit of your background, because you know a lot about tech. So.
All right. So I've, my background is I've spent a lot of time in technology, 40 years in software. Just understanding the way the world moves on tech and on software tech in particular. And I've been heading Eviivo, which is a British company that provides a platform for property management. One of many, as Chris mentioned earlier, but obviously we think we're the better ones.
That could be probably the first question. Do you think there are too many?
I don't know, because I think the world is changing. It's very different. You know, there was a big revolution called the internet. Now we're at the eve of another big one, which is AI. But if you combine both, what's happened is that everyone now is a bit of a geek. Everyone now, with AI, we're all going to be geniuses tomorrow, right? So what happens is every 2 seconds, there's a new startup coming up with new technology, new idea, and a faster way to get things done. What's really fascinating about software, it's a little bit like the brain, you know, it never stops. So I think that technology is not what it used to be in the sense that you just have one player. And a lot of people talk about consolidation. People have to understand that that consolidation is driven by cash more than by technology and talent. It will happen, it will always happen, because money always needs to find a place. But I think that, you know, people say, is this market a bit of a bubble right now? I don't think so. I think it's more likely to be a bubble burst. And I think in the years to come, I think new ideas, new technologies will emerge absolutely everywhere. And the businesses that will win, it's as basic as anything, are the businesses who worry about their values, focus on value, worry about customer service, and if you build something clean, you build something valuable, you keep your customers with you, I think you always win at the end of the day.
So could we say that the market that's like tech that is not adding any value to the market, and it's just growth, 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 because it looks like it's a massive opportunity, it's a growing vertical, and it's like, again, just capital being deployed there just to...
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes capital means you create giants. Giants have problems in integrating everything that's been consolidated, and sometimes in just delivering basic care. But they are giants, so the brand has its own power. But I don't think that the market will consolidate ever to the level that you've seen search engines consolidate or mainstream distribution consolidate. And one of the reasons why property tech and short-term vacation rental tech will not consolidate that fast is because the product is very local. the best vacation rentals, the best urban rental you can hire are the ones that are serviced by local people. And the market is fragmented, the product itself is fragmented in its nature. And when you say local, I heard Chris talk about taxes. Nobody likes to talk about taxes, but taxes and regulations are extraordinarily complex in the world. And because of that, I think there will be room for a lot of players. And I think that technologies will standardize. Technology will get easier. They will work with each other more easily, but I think the choice will remain. And I think it will be harder to find a big global player in the world of short-term rentals compared to, the same thing was said about hotels. People said hotels were going to consolidate under just a few brands. You look at Europe, it's not true at all. And that's a story that people have been telling for years and years. But it didn't, because they're local.
Yeah, here hotel brands are mainly managed by locals and super fragmented as well. And Andalusia is like one of the best main destinations in Europe. I have to ask, Guesty.
Guesty, yes, of course.
Is that...
Well, they needed a channel manager, right? We all knew that. So.
But are they maybe on that path to try to be that one reference platform after the acquisition of Rentals United?
Definitely.
It's been, I don't know, the 130 millions they've been raising now, Series F.
Yeah.
So what do you think that
they've been raising and raising and raising, and I think that their goal is an IPO. I think that's an example of what I'm talking about when I say cash wins at the end of the day. But I think they're a dynamic team. I know some of their executives. I think when you acquire so quickly and so much, you face two problems very quickly. How do you homogenize all of that? How do you bring all this technology together? And then how do you keep your service levels going at the same time? That's a classic. Either you really invest in making sure you make that work, and that's very, very expensive. Or if you have other priorities, such as an IPO or other things, you've got to cut costs and achieve it at the same time, and that can be a little bit painful.
Not for Guesty specifically, but
for property managers
in general. And also as a tech company, when they have an acquisition, like there are many challenges, as you say, it's a fragmented, it's the culture, is tech integration, how you reduce that friction in the use of that tech. So it is a massive challenge for...
It is enormous, and you have to put together a very uniform and a very coherent strategy in terms of how you talk to your stakeholders, your customers, the people you service, and at the same time move the technologies. And people are creatures of habits. Moving technologies is not always easy. I use an iPhone right now, and I'm left-handed, and I always get annoyed because I have to click. The green button is on the right, and I'd like it on the left, and things like that. So when you merge large companies like that, it takes a toll. There's two models. Either you run it as a financial model, in which case you squeeze your profits, but you keep every brand independent. There have been very successful large organizations that have grown in that way. Keep all the brands, keep them, let them go, but make sure they're all very, very profitable. I can think of Access, which is one company in the UK that operates that way. Or you try to really service the market by bringing all the technologies together, which makes it easier, but that can be very expensive and very painful.
I have two questions. One, it's about AI. Like, how do you think we're going to see AI implemented in PMSs and in this segment, in this industry? And, well, let's answer that one first.
My sense of AI, I think, is going to be fundamentally important for the short-term rental sector. We launched AI last year, and the first delivery for AI that we did related to guest communications, which is, how do you respond to guest inquiries who are trying to get ready to stay with you? And 3 months after we launched, I was quite surprised. We noticed that the AI bot was responding to 2 times more queries than the host used to respond to themselves. And that's because there's no business that I think is more busy than being a host. You're on your feet all day long. And you're not glued on your mobile or your computer every minute of the day. But guests go on their mobile, they go on the computer to ask questions, and no answers. If you are able to provide the answer, it's a game changer.
But what's the quality of that answer?
Very good, actually. There was one of our Spanish customers, this is a funny story, he says, oh my God, I spent hours and hours and hours working on my website, making sure I had all the Q&As and all the pages and all the books, and nobody ever reads them. They always call me, and they use so much time. But a bot can read that information really, really intelligently. And we are very nervous because when we launched, obviously, you've got the language issue. Are they going to be just as clever in German as they are in French or in English? And the answer is yes. Now, you have to train your bot, and you have to train AI, which means that if you can look at the transcripts after the conversation, if there's ever something not quite right, it's still going to take you less time than addressing all those queries. And when you respond to the guest for the query that wasn't 100% right, or if you see queries that come regularly and you're trying to shape an answer, that gets fed into the next iteration. AI learns, AI grows. So people who are using it, I really enjoy watching the conversations. It's incredible.
Is it going to be only used for customer service? Because it looks like that's going to be the step one.
No, yeah, step one. I think that's the one that's the biggest time saver. If you think of the daily life of someone managing a lot of rentals all over the place and trying to deal with guest crisis here or there, the guy who doesn't find his way to the door or whatever it is. So I think that's a big time saver. But you have two other elements that become very interesting. One is conversion and booking. I've seen you've got companies on your stand here that provide AI intelligence that help you tune your description and change the description of your product based on what people are searching on your website in order to make sure you appeal to more and more individuals. So I think that's also very good. And to be honest, we see a lot of customers who are not very good at writing things up when it comes to describing their product. So again, AI can help enormously to make the whole description of your apartment or your villa much more attractive. And then the last area, which is also promising, is in the area of price management. Nobody likes to spend ages managing rates, right? But people buy on price. So if you want to compete, you've got to be really at the top of your game with pricing. Imagine an AI solution that knows all the history of your business. It knows exactly when you were full, when you were empty. It's got access to a calendar giving you all the events in the area. It's got access to the transport site telling you if there's an airstrike or something else going on. And it's got access to the weather system to tell you if it's going to be sunny or cloudy. You put those four things together under an AI model, all of a sudden you get pricing recommendations or even automated pricing implementation that really take all the factors into account in a way that is better than a human a lot of the time.
That's crazy, like managing big data and then putting that together for just...
Yeah. But it doesn't even need to be that big a data. Weather forecast information is free. Transport information is free. There's no restriction in using it. And your own history is your own data. Yeah. Just those three things will help inform the decision a little bit better.
In terms of tech, and then I'll ask you later, as an industry, but what do you think is the main challenge we have as an industry? Apart from it's a fragmented, as you said, probably is going to stay fragmented because it's a huge market, and it looks like it's just going to keep growing. We've got a 13% CAGR for the next nine years. In terms of tech, what are the challenges that you see now?
I think there are different challenges depending on the segment of the short-term rental market that you're looking at. If you look at the larger players, or even the mid-sized players who have been doing it for a long, long time, maybe started with timeshare or real estate businesses, but they've been in business for a long, long time. They've grown, they've succeeded. The problem with them is change. They're too busy to consider or have the balls to change technology when they should be changing, okay? So that's one problem or one challenge. The other challenge is the other end of the spectrum. And I need to speak of this a little bit. We see enormous growth in people. Honestly, people come on the website, they buy technology, and they start vacation rental business. I was talking to a customer in a small property management company in the UK, and she told me, Michele, I was on my own 5 years ago. Now there are 40 people in my area trying to play in the vacation rental space. Yeah. And that competition is coming like crazy. True, but many of the people, and we see it, we see people who buy online, they're people who are straight out of university, who think that they've watched TV programs telling them that they're going to get rich quick, right? They rent a place and they think they're going to make more money by renting it short term. I mean, all sorts of players. And those single operators that are coming everywhere right now, many of them crash within 12 months. So I still believe it's noise. A lot of it is noise. And then the ones that don't crash, they're the ones who will more slowly, maybe, but surely build a brand, build a reputation for their customers, build recurring business, work with companies, what the Marriott is doing in opening up their doors and allowing mid-sized companies to use their brand to kind of go a little bit faster. There's a lot of good things there. And I think those companies will grow and they will succeed and they will make profits and they will be there for a long time.
Yeah, definitely adding value, but not that
many. You don't have to want to dominate the world to be successful, as we've seen in the hotel industry.
Do well where you operate and then focus on your clients. But you don't see that it's either companies that are growing and being very aggressive, like it looks like it's a range or a segment of the market that is mid-small, that either they're going to be acquired or they're just going to disappear?
Yeah, that's a TikTok acquisition phenomenon, okay? You go on social media, you talk to everybody very quickly, you can grow very, very fast, and then you can attract money, and you can sell and make a profit by just selling, and then leaving someone else to unpick the integration and the merger of all those technologies.
But then it comes with another challenge, which is a lot of property managers, and I don't know if that's, I would say that that's one of the challenges that we find for PMS, is there are a lot of operations company that they have either a mix when they market the properties, because they have in the same assets, they manage in corporate, they manage in shorts to optimize the occupancy rates. So that's a challenge because you need a PMS solution that is able to connect you with different channels, corporate or short term. And they're either property managers that they are specialized or have a mix of multi-units or multi-family. So you have different kind of, or a mix of a portfolio, and then to provide support for, or to provide the tech that support that operations, it looks like there's also a challenge out there.
There is, but it can be rationalized. I mean, from day one, Eviivo addressed both segments. We actually started in the hotel B&B space and then moved to vacation rental. And at the end of the day, whichever segment you work in, you're marketing a room to an individual who needs it for one or many nights. The job is the same, it's hospitality. The delivery is different. In a hotel, everything is concentrated in one location. You've got a team on site, and you provide a certain set of services and a certain type of extras, room service, spa, or other such facilities. If you're in the vacation rental space, your nights or your rooms or your accommodation is dispersed, and you manage teams. The challenge of managing your team is a little bit more difficult, but at the end of the day, getting a booking is going to be the same story. You've got to get great descriptions and photos. So we've built a platform that is completely hybrid and supports multiple properties, whether they're hotels or vacation rental or anything. We say, if you've got the story to tell and the room to sell, that's the business we want to understand. I think there's a balance and there's a different level of shift in the sense that the hotel industry will be worried about EPOS connectivity a lot because they need to do bar and restaurants and spas and other things, which the vacation industry doesn't care about. But if you put that aside, the rest of the core platform is the same for everyone. If you look at the vacation rental or the short rental space, the challenge is much more on cleaning and cleaning shifts and cleaner, lock, house automation and being able to interface, because you don't want to get up at 1 o'clock in the morning to help somebody get into their villa or the place that they've rented. So these are just peripheral applications, but once you put those two things, the core platform is absolutely the same. You take a booking, you advertise on Google, Booking.com, Airbnb, Marriott, you advertise on all the channels you need to advertise. Most of those channels are being mixed right now. Then you need to manage payments, and you have to collect, and you collect in different ways. Yes, the vacation rental industry likes deposits, likes prepayments. Hotels are much more flexible, but nevertheless, you collect. And then you have to manage all the regulation and the taxes. And it's the same thing, you know, if your tax rate changes because you go long stay versus short stay, a system needs to be able to deal with that, okay? It's as simple as that. So that's our philosophy anyway. So often the boring part of the technology, which has to do with taxes and invoices and accounting, nobody wants to talk about that because it's not as sexy as AI, but it's fundamentally important to save you time. So we've built the engine on that basis, and I'm very proud to say that it works just like that in either the hotel space or the vacation rental space, because it's hard to do, but once you do a lot of it, it simplifies.
Either we like it or not, is death and tax. We know that that's for granted.
Well, tax, don't get me going on that.
But if you compare PMSs on the hotel industry, that's a more mature, way more mature industry, and you see PMS solutions, they are way more sophisticated. They can control your POS on the restaurant, on the bar. You control the parking place. Are we gonna get there as a short-term rental industry?
Well, the reason why the hotel industry doesn't change this.
Sorry, is it cheaper for them because they've been developing for longer?
Yeah, very much cheaper. This is what I was going to say. The hotel industry bought technology years ago, 30 years ago. And with the same vendors that I play now, it used to be client survey technology, it was barely on the internet. Then they started to go on the internet, but it's technology that's catching up. The vacation rental space burgeoned much more recently. So you tend to have more modern technologies in the VR space than you do in the hotel space. And as I said, the hotel space is definitely a space that feels locked. You know, sometimes when you've bought very heavy systems, I know that I check in into five-star hotels. Sometimes I'm shocked at the complications. You check out, you've got a little group meeting, and you have to wait a day until they can send you the invoice. I mean, today, that should never happen, okay? And that's legacy for you. So there is more legacy in the hotel space, and because of the legacy lock, it's a little bit harder for them to make the decision sometimes, but they need to think about it. They need to think about it and sometimes make the jump.
Do you think, not regulation, as in like you need to have your taxes or regulation, do you think regulation, how do you see regulation is playing a role in the short-term rental industry? Would you say that that's one of our biggest threats? Or?
There are two things going on at the same time. One thing is, you know, we've had COVID, we've had Ukraine, we've had the cost of living and the inflation crisis. And governments, particularly in Europe and everywhere, they're looking for money, okay? So they want tax. That element of it is a little bit challenging for them because they want to collect tax, but they do not have enough staff to collect it successfully. So
lucky.
Yeah, well, lucky, not for long, because there's more and more regulation. They're looking at tech companies to collect the tax for them right now, okay? And you see that companies like Expedia, like Google, I mean, I attended a mega summit in the EU. I think there was 50 people there discussing more regulations, and they're trying to make the tech industry responsible for collecting taxes, which means that in the last 2 years, we've done a lot of development to add tax support in the API to Booking.com, to Expedia, to Airbnb, and everybody's getting more touchy on that. So that's one movement. The big issue is what's going on there. The big issue, it's an EU directive, so everybody's going, but there's no two countries. Every single country in Europe is implementing in a different way. So that's killing the industry. It's killing the tech industry because we have to write something different for every single. Each government have their own solution. The same goal, the same idea, but a completely different
We're talking about the
API.
SDR initiative, right?
The SDI initiative, the TSC initiative. There's a long list of them, okay? So the EU should really, really work on standardizing those APIs because they're killing their own technology market, not to mention companies that are operating multi. You know, you heard the mayor, Chris, a minute ago, talk about tax and what is it like in each country. It can get very, very complicated. So it's a lot of work, but we're doing it, hey. And then the second area of regulation, which is also worrying, is the housing crisis, where governments believe that there's not enough housing available for lower income part of the population. So they're trying to prevent people from putting Airbnbs or vacation rentals out in order to keep some buildings and accommodation available for the population who is struggling to basically get there. I think right now this is not really working. It might be working, I don't know for all the countries in Europe, but talking about the UK, I don't think it's working because the first thing they do, they start putting barriers up in the most touristic areas. And that's not where people are trying to find their accommodation to live, okay?
If you look at the data we have here in Spain, or in Andalusia, here in Andalusia we got 120,000 registered, 70 that are active. We have 14% of the houses available in the market of the stock are empty houses.
Yeah, but this
14%, and then 1.5% are short-term rental. 1.5%.
Yeah.
Do we really have a problem or create a pressure for the housing market? Is the real estate conditioned by the? Maybe we are viable. We might have some waste, but there's a lack of new construction. There's new development. There's a massive amount of regulation. The time that it takes for a property developer to go. Any real estate report that you read, they will never mention short-term rental. It just won't appear. But on the contrary, as you mentioned, which is very curious. Is it just a housing problem, or are hoteliers just super concerned all of a sudden for the housing problems?
Look, it's billed as being motivated by a housing concern, but I completely agree with you. Where, you know, putting a property up for short-term rental is not going to, you know, or not, as the case may be, is not going to fix the problem of housing, because if you forbid the short-term rental, the property stays empty. They have locked that in the most touristic areas, and touristic areas, prices are unaffordable anyway, whether you put it to housing or anything else. So I think this is a legislation that's misfired, quite the opposite. I think they should encourage and provide tax incentive to property managers and to vacation rental, because a lot of people go into this business and put their property for sale as a second source of income. I would say there's a large percentage of the people who use our platform who basically run short-term rentals or put their short-term rentals under property management because they want to have a better pension, because they want to find another source of income. And when they do that, the government collects taxes. If it collects taxes, it can build more housing. I don't think taxation of the vacation rental market for housing purposes is the right policy at all.
Not at all. And we got data that proves that that's not the way. I have two questions for you. The challenges about having one-stop solution, and if integration is a problem for that, and let me elaborate on that. And then the final question would be like, what are your plans? I know you're busy, and I want to know, understand what you're busy with Eviivo. The first question is like, we see integrations for PMSs, like, as you say, smart lock, housekeeping maintenance solution, check-in, check-out, unified inbox. How easy or how challenging it is to have a one single platform that is a one-stop for all the problems, let's say, we want to solve for properties.
I think we need to define what a one-stop shop platform is. There are elements of what you do that require technology that should be one block. That doesn't mean it's the only block you use. So I see things like house automation or locks, I don't think that's an API solution. because it's a very different competency. It's hardware related. It's, you've got to go and install it. So you have the lock systems on one area. Similarly, accounting. Nobody should rewrite these accounting packages have been around for years. Very modern ones, very good ones. And by this, I mean accounting to do your HR, your staff, your supply, a lot of other things. And then you have things like EPOS systems as well, which is the whole inventory manager, etc. These are specialty areas where I don't think that necessarily needs to be a block, because if it were a block, it reduces choice and you get stuck in legacy. What I believe should be a block is the PMS. And the PMS is basically where you manage your bookings. Mm-hmm. It is where you manage your cash flows and your payments. Mm-hmm. It is where you manage your guest and your service delivery to the guest. And it is where you organize your cleaning and your housekeeping, your rotas. That piece, the reason it needs to be together is because if you take separate pieces for all of that, it's not only more expensive, but it's never well integrated. You can't go deep enough in how the pieces talk to each other to really move fast and really be effective in the way you use it. So for me, the all-in-one platform should bring together your booking platform, your distribution, which is all the channel connectivity you need to advertise what you have, your payments, your invoicing, goes without saying, your guest communications, your guest relations, and the way you manage your cleaning team, because that's basically your operation.
That's your core.
And that is very vertical. All the other bits, they're fairly horizontal. They're not specific to the short-term rental industry, and I think you've got big names, and I think maybe that you're better off just connecting to provide a much wider level of choice.
One last question. You busy?
Yes, very crazy busy, yeah.
What's happening in Eviivo? What are your plans?
Well, in Eviivo, right now, we made a few acquisitions in the past. Right now, we're quiet on that. We're busy releasing software, releasing product. And I think our sights are pretty much on the German and US market right now, to be specific. So that's all I can say for now.
Okay, for now. And then we can see, what are you looking at, when you look at the Spanish market, it's a developing market, it's a growth market for you?
Yeah, we chose Malaga. In fact, my team chose Malaga. They used to be, it's funny, the Iberian team used to be in London. And then Brexit happened, and then we moved everybody to Spain, and they're now in Malaga, and we run the whole Mediterranean for Malaga. So they cover Spain, Portugal, and Italy. Mm-hmm. I think everybody in the team is trilingual. And yeah, we've been here, I think we moved just before COVID.
Okay. Okay. Prospects for 2024? Do you think the industry is healthy, the tourism industry?
I think it's very healthy, and it's growing really, really fast. As I said, the growth prospects are good. It's a new market, and I think it's a very solid market. And yeah.
Good year ahead.
We expect, look, everybody announces like 10, 11%, average growth every year. I think it's much higher than that. We see much more than that.
For next year.
We see it in the high 20s.
Okay. Thank you very much, Michele.
Thank you.
It's been really a pleasure enjoying this conversation. I hope to see you again here at Vitur Summit.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.